Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heart, Mind, and Mechanics Coaching. And today I have as my guest Gwen Lepard. Gwen is a coach, a trainer, a facilitator, an author, and a speaker. She has done all kinds of stuff, including having an award-winning international best-selling book, along with Joe Vitale and Marie Diamond, that you may remember from The Secret. She has invented her own methodology, the Lepard method, for what she does, and she uses a variety of other methodologies when she is coaching and helping her clients. She empowers empathic entrepreneurs to evolve beyond their limitations and beyond narcissistic abuse so they can be a rock star in their business helping other people. And that is just such an incredible calling. So first of all, before I get into how you got there, Gwen, tell me, or tell our audience, what is an empath? How do you know that somebody is empathic?
So an empath actually feels other people's emotions, and they can actually take on the physical symptoms of someone. They don't know, we don't know, where we end and someone else begins. Boundaries are a huge challenge. A lot of people pleasing, codependent relationships with narcissists that are, and energy bullies and energy vampires, because we are so giving. We care so much and we feel somebody's pain. So we're constantly trying to fix it. So that is a disempowered empath. And that's a disempowered empath. And an empowered empath actually has great boundaries. And they're still feeling people, but they're not affected by what they're feeling. They're able to respond and have great tools, which is part of what I do, rather than react and just. I can actually tell you a story that actually is a great example of what an empath does. I'm in this huge ballroom with so many people, this incredible speaker on the stage, and they're going through shares. It's like they've stirred things up, this amazing coach and speaker, and he stirred things up for people. And so there are people coming up to the mic and they're sharing their story and what the nuggets they got. And then there's a woman up there and she's starting to cry. And you can see people starting to get out of their seats. I was one of those people. And he goes, all of you healers in the room, so most empaths, are drawn to the healing arts. Right. Sit back down. This is not about you. I know you want to help, but what you really want to do is you want to take away the pain that you're feeling. You're feeling her pain. Let her have her experience. And that was like, whoa. That really describes how an empath is. You feel somebody else's pain and you want to help.
Right.
Did I answer your question?
You absolutely did. So now
I do want to say that how we recharge is in nature and alone time and with soothing sounds. And sometimes we just have to get away from the world and get out in nature. So go ahead. You were going to ask me some other things.
That's okay. So tell me, Gwen, how did you get into this line of work? What prompted you to do this?
Being an empath and not knowing it, I was drawn to. I could feel people's pain, and I was drawn to doing massage. What actually led to it is I wanted to be a chiropractor because I'd had some really great chiropractors, and I thought this would be a great thing to do for a living. I can help people, and you're like a doctor, because I originally wanted to be a doctor and I didn't want to do all the study. I just didn't. I wasn't led to the medical field. And I was calling a bunch of chiropractors and saying, what did you do? How did you get into it? What are your recommendations? And one of them said, well, there are no schools that are open right now. And there was also I would have had to finish some of my schooling from from college. I would have needed a few more credits to be able to get in. And he said, and there's the college that was nearby is not open right now. Why don't you take a class in massage? Then, you'll have a good touch. So I take the class in massage, and then I did massage for years. So it was like I never did become a chiropractor.
So you didn't become a chiropractor. You started out with massage, but you said you didn't know you were an empath. So how did you figure that out?
I actually was told I was an empath recently. I mean, within the last 3 years.
Oh my.
Up until that point, I mean, I was sensitive. I was highly sensitive. I didn't know what an empath was. And I knew that I was a healer and that I loved helping people, but I didn't have that label or understanding of being an empath. And when a good friend and actually the person that said, you're really good at what you do, you're just not talking to the right people, and then started introducing me to the right people, she was testing, because she tests people to see if they're like empaths, starseeds, hypersensitive people, angel work or earth angels. And she said, oh, you're an empath. And I went, ding, 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 ding. Okay. And it's like everything started making sense. You know, sometimes labels limit us, and other times they define us in a way that actually empowers us to be more than what we were before. And that's what that did for me.
Okay. And so from there, you went on to actually looking for empathic entrepreneurs, or were those the people that you were serving best already and you just put a label on it?
I've been serving a lot of empaths and wanting to expand the reach, because I've always had big dreams of being able to make the world a better place. It's just one of those things. Please, can I just do that? I think that's why you put me here. It seems to be that's, my path keeps leading me to do big things and help people heal. And so when I was doing massage, I go back into the past, I was doing massage on the spot before massage chairs even existed. And I was doing it at a little place called the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano. And I was working on jazz musicians, and I worked on Deborah Harry, and I worked with Ginger Baker and a number of like the Rippingtons. I had a number of people that behind it, back in the back. Backstage, I offered massage on the spot. And so people would take me up on it. And I have some good stories from that time. And it was trying to get the word that massage was not just sheets and oils and dark rooms and happy endings. So I wanted to bring to the world the fact that healing and massage, because that was my modality at the time, was actually legitimate and could help people besides what it was known for. All of the benefits of massage. And the best way to do that is to work with people that have influence. So empathic entrepreneurs have more influence than, and so that I'm repeating that pattern is helping those that are already of influence to be of more influence.
Okay. So
that's one part of who I help.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we look at your empathic entrepreneurs, what are the typical problems that these people have that you work with them on? You said initially that empaths have problems with boundaries.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
So let's dig into how that can affect an entrepreneur. There may be people who are listening to this who are entrepreneurs and don't realize they have these problems. They just know that things aren't working as well as they want.
Yeah, and that's actually very true. I'm actually currently in the process of interviewing empathic entrepreneurs, people that actually have identified themselves as being an empath and an entrepreneur, to find out how I can best serve them. And so I don't have a complete answer for you, but what I do know as an empathic entrepreneur myself is without having boundaries, I overgive. I don't charge enough for my services. I allow people to walk, again, the boundaries, walk over me. And so I have a great example of a coach that at the 30-minute mark, if our session is 30 minutes, she's done. It's like, we got to go. And she holds that boundary so beautifully. And as an empath, you will keep giving more. So as an entrepreneur that is an empath, you will keep giving more because you don't feel that the client or the yeah, the client or the customer has received fully what they needed, because you're sensing still an emptiness, rather than saying, okay, let's address this in our next session, or here's another product that will fulfill that need that you still have. So the great thing about being an empathic entrepreneur is that you sense your clients and customers' needs.
Mm-hmm.
You still want to ask permission and say, I'm getting a sense that this is going on with you. And then listen to what they have to say, so that they come to it themselves, that you can use your empathic abilities to be very caring and warm and hold space for them so that they can make their own decisions. And then you have to hold the boundaries so that you're not resenting your clients and customers. Does that make sense?
I think so. So if I understand correctly, what you're saying is that a lot of empathic entrepreneurs will over deliver.
Yes.
But not in a healthy sense. Undercharge,
Right.
over deliver, but not in a healthy sense.
Right.
And so that way they're training their clients to take advantage of them.
Absolutely.
And so then they start to resent their clients because they know they're being taken advantage of, and they end up with a business they hate.
You've got it.
Okay. So to move them from a business they hate into a business they love, then all of those other things need to be repaired by teaching them how to have good, healthy boundaries. It sounds like. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. But it also being able to have a tool that gives you great energy hygiene.
Mm-hmm.
Because some entrepreneurs are empaths and they don't know it. So we talked about, how you might discover that, and I'm working on creating a quiz so that you can find out that, if you are or you aren't, and maybe where you are on the spectrum.
Right.
And so having an energy hygiene tool so that you come into every session or every interaction with someone clear, and then after you're done with that, you can clear yourself again, so that every interaction is clear and coming from a place that you're in your own power and your own energy, and you can be open to hold space and feel what's going on with that other person. But then you close the container. So at the end of the day, you're not drained and exhausted and wondering why, you have a headache when you didn't. Or there have been times where I'll be feeling perfectly fine, and all of a sudden my shoulders will just really start hurting really, really bad, or my neck or my low back. And then the client comes onto my Zoom, and what are they dealing with? Sore shoulders, sore neck, sore low back, and we clear it, and then it's gone from my field. So I've got myself to the point where I'm not allowed to feel what they're feeling until they're in front of me, not coming into
Right.
I don't want to sit there going, okay, somebody's coming with a sore back. It's like, okay, they get in front of me. Oh, hey, you have a sore back. Yeah. So creating those boundaries so that your client time is client time. And you're, if you have a space where you actually pray for your clients or you do healings on your clients, it's in that specific time, not just randomly throughout your day as they pop into your mind.
Right.
That you create containers where things can happen. And there's flexibility within those containers, because most empaths do like flexibility.
Well, yeah, I think that every good coach or every good consultant really wants to feel where the client is coming from.
Absolutely.
But they don't want
not all day long or be affected by it afterwards. Yeah, and not being overwhelmed. Yes.
So it's really important when I do quantum energy work. At the end of the session, whether we're doing meditations or we're doing processes or whatever it is, I'm going to feel tired because I've given a lot of energy to hold that space open for the client. And so, just like you, it's something that has to be cleared before I go from my office back to my home. Absolutely. Or even into the next session.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes. And there are ways, and I don't know the specifics of the work that you do, but there are ways to, instead of have it come from you, that the energy coming from you, that the energy comes from outside of you, and you're just holding the space for all of that so that you can actually be energized at the end of a session rather than, and still wanting to clear the, there's always the removing the energy, the closing of the container so that You give the other person's energy back to them. You take your energy back from them, and you each go on as the separate entities that we all are, in spite of our desire for connection. And that's why we hook and, into each other all the time.
Right. There was an interesting story from, I think it was Dr. Nelson from the Emotion Code, where they were talking about using a sister of somebody as a surrogate for the problem and clearing it through the sister. But they didn't disconnect. The sister didn't disconnect at the end of the process, and then had to call back some days later saying, I really feel weird about all this stuff, because she was still connected to her sister's energy.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah. You definitely need to make sure that you have clear boundaries and clear containers and openings and closings. Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's interesting, because if you aren't somebody who has worked with energy before, you don't recognize where your energy stops and someone else's begins. It can get really confusing. When I was much younger, Gwen, much younger, I would walk down the street and I would pick up other people's energy. Mm-hmm. And I met a psychic, the only real honest to goodness psychic I've ever met in my life. She was so good. She was spooky. And the first thing she said to me is, you are psychic. You will pick up other people's energy. You need to put yourself in white light, in a cylinder of white light, before you go out. Now, this was a long time ago when all of this stuff was considered not just woo-woo, but probably, you could get yourself in a very bad position with the medical community, and they'd want to put you in a hospital somewhere.
Right,
exactly. And so I listened to what she said, and I'm like, no, not me, right? Other people can do that, not me. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. And of course, it was hogwash. I didn't know until quite recently that I was empathic, but she knew immediately, and she knew that it was disruptive, because I would pick up all of these really weird energies and I wouldn't know they weren't mine.
Exactly.
And then at some point, I began to realize that the energy wasn't my energy. I was picking up distress from somebody else.
What was the point that you found that?
It was just weird. I taught myself, because, as I said, this was long ago and they could actually hospitalize you for this sort of stuff. Right. I was sitting waiting for someone in a meeting, and I was having a cup of tea or whatever, and just waiting for them to arrive. And it was in actually a hotel, because they were downtown. Our office was way out in the boonies. So I drove downtown and we met in this little tea room in a hotel. And so I was sitting there drinking my cup of tea, and this horrible feeling came over me of tremendous sadness. And I thought, no, wait a minute. 30 seconds ago, I was perfectly fine. So I asked myself, is this my energy? And the answer was no. And so I said, so whose energy is it? And I started going down a list of people until I came to somebody and said, oh, this is yours. So I got up and I went to the phone booth. This was before cell phones, so this was really a long time ago. Went to the phone booth, called the person, and said, are you having a tough time? And they said, yeah, this has just happened. And they were amazed that I was calling, because this thing had literally just happened to them, and I just picked up on the energy. And it was someone I knew pretty well, so I could pick up on that energy. So that's how I learned that I could pick up on energy, but I still wasn't convinced that I was picking up on strangers' energies as I walked down the street. And it took a long time to convince me that that actually happened. So, it's been a kind of a fun journey, because in building, that in our previous business, we built a 7-figure business, and it had nothing to do with coaching or any of that stuff. It was actually, one of those solid businesses with balance sheets and all that sort of stuff. And I could still pick up when people called on the phone, and it was just, I would actually have to blot things out of my mind, because it was just so weird. So now to be in coaching, I can use that.
Yes.
Just like your clients, right? I should have known you when I had that other business, because you could have helped a lot. Because, just exactly as you're explaining, we gave away a tremendous amount of stuff to people. and just gave and gave and gave and gave to the point where it really started to become a problem because people just expected us to give everything for free and there was nothing left to give. I mean, we were both.
You trained them how to treat you.
Absolutely. And we did a fantastic job of it.
Yep. And showed them your value or how much or how little you valued yourself.
Absolutely.
What you had to give. Yeah.
So now that I've moved into coaching, I learned a very valuable lesson. How not to do that. So what you bring to the table, Gwen, is so incredibly valuable for entrepreneurs to help them to stand in their power and charge what they're worth. I think that's an amazing, amazing gift. So
yes,
in that sense, what are some of the modalities that you use to help these people?
Thank you so much for asking. So one of the reasons why I created the Lepard method is that for over 35 years, I've been gathering up tools. And part of that came from the sense of not being enough. And so overcompensating, so becoming too much. It's an interesting dichotomy and one that most empaths end up working with because people tell them that they're too much, that they're too sensitive, and it's because they're feeling like they're not good enough and they're feeling all these other people's not good enough stuff. And again, like I said, not knowing where they end and others begin. So I was putting lots of these into my files, certifications to prove that I was actually worthy and that I could help people. And I recently reconnected with someone that commented to her group about my certifications on the wall, and she goes, "I'm sure she has dozens of other ones in a file somewhere." And I laughed because she's just so right. Yeah. So what I did is I took a lot of these pieces. So training in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, quantum jumping, which is one of my favorite things to do. EFT, working with the angels and ascended masters, your clairs, speaking an ancient healing soul language, and if people want to know how to access their own, bringing that forward. Energy medicine. I spent 2 years with an energy healer, and though I was learning, I was also holding space for the class and helping her like we're doing here. We were doing a co-hosting her radio show once a month. I helped her co-host a radio show once a month. And so I gathered a lot from that energy healing, and there's training, and there's still pieces that will keep coming in. I combined the brain healing with cranial sacral therapy that I was doing physically, and brought it to the remote because there is an energy component to cranial sacral therapy. The same thing with orthobionomy. I remember taking acupuncture and turning it into self-acupuncture without any needles, that I just, because one of my acupuncturists found ouchie points, as he called them, because there's chi, you're looking for the chi with the needles, and he called them ouchie points because that's where it hurts. So he'd put a needle in there, not because there was a meridian there, because it was an ouchie point. So that's also a piece that I bring. So I brought a lot of past modalities in studying massage and so all of the physiology, anatomy and physiology, and really knowing the body well over the years into these energy pieces and the mind pieces and the emotional pieces. I do use the emotion code. I got that from the energy healing. I use that to help people clear specific emotions using decrees, using Saturn's decrees. So I also have training with Saturn's, Jupiter's decrees, and they're like the fastest modality on the planet to date. Gosh, there's just so many. And that's why, people say, well, what do you do and how do you do it? It's like, well, I use the Lepard method to help empaths evolve beyond their limitations and narcissistic and energy bully abuse. So what I use is what's needed in front of me. Of course, you mentioned coaching. Coaching, I don't identify as a coach. It's one of my tools. And so I'm more of a mentor, and you're always looking for, what's the label that fits. And I was sitting with a fellow wellness leader in a training, and we were doing our marketing materials, and I'm going, well, leader, and she's going, you're so much more than a leader. She goes, you're a luminary. And I'm like, okay, well, what's a luminary? And I pulled it up in my thesaurus, and it's like leading light, guiding light, leader, so many different pieces. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a lot of those. And so it stuck. I was willing to take that on. I was willing to own being a luminary, because I do shine a lot of light. And it's that reflection that I keep getting and have gotten for years, and felt uncomfortable until you introduced me to my soul, which is so massive. I was like, okay, so I get it. It's oozing out all over the place. Not that ooze is a good name. It's shining out all over. My soul cannot fit in this little human body. It shines out all over the place, and that's what people see in me. So that's why luminary, to be able to bring the light and love and joy and hope to others, especially empaths, because when empaths are empowered and standing in their power and bringing their caring and love to the world, it is, the whole world is healing so much faster. Yes. And right now there's a lot of narcissists that are out there trying to tear empaths apart. And one of the gold and the gifts in narcissists is that they actually ignite an empath's powers. That by destroying them, they have to take their power back. And that is part of what happened to me. And I didn't know that that's what was happening until years after I had left my former narcissistic husband, who is no longer on the planet. But yeah, that's why I love helping empaths. And before my friend said, you're an empath, I struggled so much. And I see this with a lot of empaths. We can help, all of those modalities, all of the certifications. People would say, well, what do you do? And who do you help? I had no idea, because I could help, I help everybody. It's like a chiropractor that I know says, anybody with a spine. I help anybody with a spine. It's like, yeah. And how many people does that get in the door for you? He had a traumatic brain injury. So he started refining it down that he helps people with traumatic brain injuries and with connecting, using chiropractic and many other intuitive tools to help people's neuroplasticity be enlivened. And I don't even understand what all that means, but he does. And he gets really great results. And all of a sudden, he brought in a high bearing chamber, and now he's got a thriving clientele, because he went from everyone with a spine to, so all empaths to empathic entrepreneurs who have, that are up against their limitations and have experienced energy bullying, energy vampire, narcissistic abuse. And that helped bring them to where they are, and they may still be struggling with it. And one of the things that I know as an entrepreneur is that I'm really transparent, but a lot of entrepreneurs have to, put on the fancy face and go out there in the world and do the networking and be the person that the world wants them to be. And inside they're just like going, oh. So their personal power is, they can rock it in the boardroom or wherever it is that they need to be, whatever their business is. But when they go home, their personal power is nil, and they're totally destroyed by family dynamics or past family dynamics. Perhaps they have a narcissist at home that is just tearing them apart at home. And the fact that they're even able to survive and go out there and be a rock star in their business, it's living two different lives. And so bringing that together so that when you show up, you're showing up fully as yourself. And when you're at home, you're in your power and you're being respected and supported in the way and loved in the way that you deserve.
Wonderful. So if somebody wants to work with you, if they see themselves in what you've been saying, Gwen, how do they get hold of you?
GwenLepard.com. So Gwen, Gwen, Lepard, Lopard. So like the big cat, but without the O. Lepard.com. And there's a lot of information there. The best way to get a hold of me is to go to my calendar segment and find the calendar that you want to connect with me on. I'm doing interviews of empathic entrepreneurs. So you could choose that. Maybe you have some baggage that you would like to be gone. So you could choose that. There's just a connection call. It's like you met me through an introduction or networking, or maybe you met me through here, and it's like, I want to connect with you and have a bit of a chat. There's also an anti-anxiety. And that one's actually paid. It's only $47, and you can choose that, and we'll spend 15 minutes together. And during that, discover if we want to work together and also clear up some of your anxiety. Because, like I said, I have the decrees, which are so fast. Anxiety.
Wonderful. Well,
Yeah,
it has been
chemical. But
it has been a joy speaking with you, Gwen. And I hope that our audience has gotten an incredible amount from what you've had to say. So if you see yourself in anything that Gwen's been talking about, then go to her website and just choose how you would like to connect.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much, Wendy. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
Okay, this is Wendy Byford at Heart, Mind, and Mechanics Coaching. And if you are a woman, a businesswoman who is stuck or is not accelerating your growth as fast as you would like, and you would like to have a chat on how we can work together, then all you need to do is to go to the link below. It'll be posted right below my picture here, and let me know. Let's have a 15-minute conversation and see if we can get you unstuck and on your way. And obviously, if you're an empath, then you probably want to go to Gwen. If you're not an empath, then come and see me. Okay. It's been great speaking with you, Gwen. We've had a wonderful chat, and really appreciate your being here. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye for now.